The books of 1st and 2nd Maccabees tell the heroic story of Jewish resistance against the Greeks, specifically against the Seleucid Empire. This is the setting. These are the actors, emperors, and generals, but the situation is far less organized than this list implies. Think of all these men as competing warlords. On the other side, the Maccabees. Mattathias is the patriarch. He has 5 sons. Eleazar and John Gaddi are not on this list, but we will meet them. John Hyrcanus is Simon Thassy's son. He is the beginning of the Hasmonean dynasty. Maccabee is a nickname, not a last name. It means hammer. So Judas the Hammer and his brothers will thankfully not suffer the internal fighting and the civil wars that the Greeks will undergo. Their descendants, the Hasmoneans, however, will. We'll also keep track of the Second Temple built after the return from Babylon. And if you want to keep it simple, you could say that the guys in red battled the guys in blue to liberate the temple. End of story. That's not wrong, but it is a major oversimplification of these 2 books. Let's dive in. As they open, Antiochus Epiphanes is in power. His father had recently conquered Judea from the Ptolemies, other Greeks ruling from Egypt. Mattathias is already an old man. We will meet him soon. And the high priest in Jerusalem is the universally respected Onias III. The trouble starts when the new Greek king allows Onias' brother Jason to buy the priesthood. Jason Hellenizes the city and builds a gymnasium. And then he is outbid for the priesthood. This guy is not even a Levite. Antiochus doesn't really care for now. He's ruling from the north, but views the Holy Land as a stepping stone to Egypt. He attacks, hoping to finish what his father started. While he's gone, Jason recaptures the temple. Antiochus is outraged. He robs the temple, turns it into a pagan shrine, sacrifices a pig to Zeus, the abomination of desolation, outlaws the practice of Judaism, tortures and kills those who own books of the law, or who circumcise their children, or who refuse to sacrifice to idols. He also builds a fortress next to the temple. It is manned first with Hellenized Jews and later with Greek soldiers. More religious persecution. Mattathias refuses to participate. He kills an apostate Jew and then the royal officials, and then flees to the wilderness with his 5 sons to start a guerrilla war against the Greeks and the Hellenized Jews. A war carried on by Judas the Hammer, who defeats one Greek general and then another. So Antiochus appoints Lysias to watch over both Judea and his young son, while the emperor goes east to raise more money. Judas has more success, even fighting off the acting governor. And I should mention that the number of battles and their ordering is a little bit different in 1st versus 2nd Maccabees. We're following the sequence of the 1st book. Other victories, though, are recorded in the 2nd book. Enough victories for Judas to enter Jerusalem and cleanse the temple, even if he's not able to expel the Greeks from the Acra. Hanukkah, followed by more victories and the humiliating death of Antiochus IV, unless you're reading 2nd Maccabees. In that case, Antiochus died before Hanukkah. The next emperor is still young. His regent moves south. Judas was in the middle of trying to dislodge the Greeks from the Acra, but he runs out of time. He feels trapped in Jerusalem, so he moves his army out of the city. The armies meet, and Judas's brother Eleazar is killed. He fights his way underneath one of the Greeks' elephants and then stabs it from below, but he dies when the beast falls on him. After this battle, there is a truce. Lysias learns that Antiochus IV appointed someone new, Philip, to be the regent for his son. At least that's the idea you get from 1st Maccabees. 2nd Maccabees says something a little bit different. In any case, Lysias rushes north to fight for the throne. The Greek civil war has begun. Who will seize power? Demetrius. Once a prisoner in Rome, he arrives, raises an army, and gets rid of the competition. This explains why Judas does not return to Jerusalem. His smaller army needs to stay mobile. As a result, another Hellenizing high priest lobbies to be installed, or, according to 2nd Maccabees, reinstalled. Demetrius sends a general to persecute the Jews and destroy the Maccabees, but Judas does not fall for his tricks. He wins another decisive victory. That's how it's described in 2nd Maccabees. That's where that book leaves off. But 1st Maccabees continues. Demetrius sends another commander, another battle, and this time, Judas Maccabeus dies. Jonathan escapes east and keeps fighting. In the temple, Alcimus reinforces the Acra, but is killed after taking down a wall in the temple. and it's unclear who replaces him. One theory is that he could have been replaced by the so-called teacher of righteousness, later made famous by the Qumran documents. Jonathan keeps fighting. He avenges the death of his brother John Gaddi and battles to a standstill the general who killed his other brother Judas. But things are not looking great until he arrives, another son of Antiochus Epiphanes. He's looking for allies and gives Jonathan the high priesthood, and then he seizes power. As Jonathan grows the kingdom, he fights against another Greek general named Apollonius, and that guy did not make our list, so my apologies to the second Apollonius. Alexander is betrayed by Ptolemy. Jonathan forms a new treaty with a new Greek emperor, and then another treaty with the next emperor and his regent, which is a good time to remember that there are still Greek soldiers in the Acra. Or are there? In chapter 10, verse 12, we read that, quote, the strangers in the fortress that Maccabees had built fled away. But then in chapter 11, verse 41, we read, Jonathan asks Demetrius to cast out those in the tower in Jerusalem. They're fighting against Israel. So it's unclear, but Jonathan confirms an alliance with Rome, and then goes north for a meeting, where he is betrayed and taken prisoner and eventually killed. Simon is the new leader in Jerusalem, and Tryphon kills the heir he is supposed to be protecting, but loses control of the Acra. Simon starves out the remaining soldiers, as Tryphon captures the former king. Another ambitious Greek makes and then breaks a treaty with Israel as he gains power. Simon arranges a political marriage for his daughter, goes to an in-law party, and is ambushed and killed. His son escapes assassination. He'll go on to found the Hasmonean dynasty, expand the kingdom, and steer Israel towards a confrontation with Rome and the New Testament.